Hi, everybody. Okay, tonight I got to keep my eye on the time because 2 hours from now there's some sort of webinar. It's a hedge fund type guy, investor, telling you, watch out, everything's going to collapse. Here's how you can protect your, not just your investments, but save your life. One of the points I was making earlier was the Kennedy family, Joseph, because PJ was the one who, that was where the money was made from I'm sure a big portion of it was the bootlegging is when they really kicked in with a lot of money. But even before that, with his taverns, which were legitimate businesses, it's just, it was for a political agenda that was pro-Nazi. Okay, it gets in before the Nazis come in, but that's pro-World War I, which are the same industrialists behind the whole thing. But Joseph money laundered that through the stock markets, but was savvy enough to realize that the collapse was coming and get out where he needed to get out. And while the rest of the country was in a depression, the Kennedy family was sitting pretty in Hyannis Point. No worries. So sure, and I know everybody laughs at me because I'm like, look, if I had stayed in the game, I'd be one of the wealthiest hedge fund managers out there, because I would have seen the shit show, which I did. I'd be like, well, no, I'm gonna get out of here and watch these son of a bitches and make a killing off of all of the crap that they're pulling. My favorite line in The Big Short, that the book's by Michael Lewis, the movie's great, everybody should watch it, is when the head of the hedge fund goes to this, it's mortgage bankers or mortgage dealers and all of the shenanigans going on there, and starts talking to some of these sales guys who are openly, this is the other day with these coaches and this webinar that I saw, you're like openly admitting all of this crap. Believe but I've had that seen many times. But when he sees that, he passed by his trader and he says, you find out everything that guy has ever touched and you go short. He was betting again. It was like, this guy's gonna lose his shirt and I'm gonna go to the other side, and or he's gonna make everybody lose their shirts, where he's had his little hand in the cookie jar. And so I'm gonna make a killing on that, betting against him. And of course, they made a killing. So, if you really follow what's been going on all of these years, it's very, very evident. I just, it's like working at a casino. Thank you very much. I stayed home with my children. I had a life. I got involved with my communities. My ex-husband went through all of that. And in fact, Spanish, he has a French nationality, but Spanish big, he mainly worked for, 99% of the time for Banco Bilbao Vizcaya Argentaria. And it's currency trader, but then, he crashed and burned as director of the Treasury Department of Banco Ganadero in Bogota, which is a subsidiary of BBVA. But And that's what pisses me off. I never would have gotten there if it hadn't been for my social climbing and my community work. Of course, I didn't help them in the markets because I was too busy changing diapers and cooking and cleaning. And okay, when we got to Bogota, I had lots of help. And so I did get involved in my community. My kids were in the school, I had help. So of course. But and all the different communities. And but I've always recognized, and I told this to the IMF economists, I don't know how many times, I don't excuse what my ex-husband got involved in. I still don't know all of the details, but I know that these guys are put under such pressure to produce and produce and produce high returns, high returns, high returns, blah, 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 all sorts of crap, that they cut corners, some more than others. But I'm sorry, it's all the same can of worms. And the guys, most of, for example, in the currency, and this gets into your global, your commercial, because everything's really pegged on the dollar and the euro pound. Well, now it's the euro, since the introduction of the euro. Before it was dollar pound. Now you also have the euro, but 90% of the trades go through there. So the little guys, the traders, it's like a crapshooter walking into a high stakes poker game, and they just can't compete. I mean, some do better than others, but it's a stacked game. And the French and Spanish banking systems are not peanuts compared to what you'll find Southeast Asia, or wherever, in these small little countries and underdeveloped countries. So imagine what those how that throws these people up against the wall. It's a totally unregulated industry. It doesn't matter how many laws this is the thing. Oh, we need more regulation, we need more laws. No, you need few uniform laws, and then you need regulators who have a freaking brain and understand ethics, legal principles. This is just ABC stuff. It's incredible how overtly all of these people are taking everybody for a ride. I've been documenting this for 15 years, so this is not, I do my research. Unlike all of the other little NGOs out there and social media campaigns, there's substance. A lot of hard work, as my father told me. He said, yeah, it's hard work. If you want to get results, you can be the smartest freaking person in the world, whatever, the best athlete, the best singer, the best actor, whatever profession you choose, the best farmer, whatever work you do, if you want it to take pride in your work, it's hard work. Otherwise, it's bullshit and hot air. So, anyway, I went on all of that for 4 minutes now, and I got to get this down. So, what I had been looking at today, just passing through on the TV downstairs, they're going after Paul Gosar, and they want to censor him over this violent video. I mean, there's so much stuff out there, but yeah, I think it was this that it actually, that's what started me on my November 1st letter that got sent. He got put in the spotlight and targeted. So I looked what, you know, what is it, caucuses, I forget. I came across Freedom, Liberty, and Tea Party caucuses. So I went through, and of course, see, this is where administrative work comes in, and the nitty gritty, and hours and hours and hours of work that nobody, you know, sees or notices unless they appreciate the support around them that goes in to completing a project. The administrative work, you always have it, whether it's in your home, cooking and cleaning, or in the offices, keeping your records in an organized, simple fashion. I mean, I saw ladies over at the IMF all over the frickin' map, their secretaries. I was like, this is you people are like, you're kidding me. This is the best and the brightest. These people are earning, you know, 6 figures, well, 5-figure salaries. I mean, I wouldn't even hire some of them as my freaking maid. That's how empty in the head they are. So what do they do? And these are ones who've been around for 30 years. They just hire more people and hire more people to try and keep the workflow going. It's just, I mean, it really did disgust me. I would have felt very, very guilty working there if I hadn't been reading all of the reports. It gave me access to all of these, you know, academic economic platforms for free. But now I have to pay, you know, I don't have the money. I mean, I've already, it's water under the bridge because I had more than enough research, and it wasn't just the focus of my research, but it was very enlightening also to observe what, you know, what these guys were reading and doing, and on a daily basis. By the time I left, I was putting all of the pieces of the puzzle together at the international level with the IMF, World Bank, and UN. And I said, oh, Lordy, 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 are you people in a muddle? I've been back for 13 years. And I was there for 7. They all knew, yeah, everybody complains that all I ever do is talk about my research, my activism work. This is what we got to do. Excuse me, explaining and re-explaining principles like that 5th graders should understand. And these are the most, the highest educated and most highly paid workforce probably in the world. And they exist for one reason. Washington exists, that it was created. The house to provide housing, if you will, workspaces for the federal government, not as a money-making cesspool where everybody could just cash in and keep the money flow going in. You know, like these are the parasites on society. Just horrific. So I'm gonna just, I was listening, I wanted to, you know, get a synopsis because I wasn't
today to address and reject
watching
this characterization, accusations from many in this body that the cartoon from my office is dangerous or threatening. It was not, and I reject the false narrative categorically. I do not espouse violence towards anyone. I never have. It was not my purpose to make anyone upset. I voluntarily took the cartoon down, not because it was itself a threat, but because some thought it was. Out of compassion for those who generally felt offense, I self-censored. Last week, my staff posted a video depicting a policy battle regarding amnesty for tens of millions of illegal aliens. This is an enemy that speaks to young voters who are too often overlooked. Even Twitter, the left's mouthpiece, did not remove the cartoon, noting it was in the public's interest for it to remain. The cartoon directly contributes to the understanding and the discussion of the real-life battle resulting from this administration's open border policies. This body is considering passage of Mr. Biden's reckless socialist Marxist $4.9 trillion spending bill that provides $100 billion for amnesty to tens of millions of illegal aliens already in this country. This is what the left doesn't want the American people to know. Our country is suffering from the plague of illegal immigration. I don't stop pointing this out, nor will I. Millions of illegal aliens, drugs, and human traffickers are being led in and moved around our country in the dead of night, all condoned by this administration. For this cartoon, some in Congress suggest I should be punished. I have said decisively, there is no threat in the cartoon other than the threat to the immigration poses to our country. And no threat was intended by my staff or me. The American people deserve to have their voices heard in Congress. No matter how much the left tries to quiet me, I will continue to speak out against amnesty for illegal aliens, defend the rule of law, and advance the American First agenda. If I must join
Gentleman's recognized 30 seconds.
If I must join Alexander Hamilton, the first person attempted to be censored by this House, so be it. It is done. Madam Speaker, I yield back.
Gentleman from Florida.
Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to yield 3 minutes to the author of this resolution, the gentlelady from California.
Gentlelady is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank my colleague for giving me this time. I take no pleasure in introducing this resolution. No one asked me to introduce it. No one tapped me on the shoulder. I am a victim of violence. I know what it's like. I also was in the gallery clamoring for life when the shots rang out in the Speaker's lobby. We're here today because a sitting member thought it was okay to post a deranged animated video of himself killing a fellow member of this House and also attacking the President of the United States. That video has been seen by 3 million people. It was up for over 2 days before it was taken down. Inciting violence begets violence. Congressman Ocasio-Cortez has become the go-to subject of the radical right to stir up their base, as too often is the case for women of color. It is disgusting and profoundly unacceptable. Tragically, the minority leader has not condemned the video. For 8 days, he said nothing. Silence speaks volumes. Silence normalizes violence. Violence against women in politics is a global phenomenon. A 2016 survey by the Interparliamentary Union found that 82% of women parliamentarians have experienced psychological violence, and 44% have received threats of death, rape, beatings, or abduction. The intent of these online threats against women is clear. Silence them, strip them of their power, and discourage them from running for office. The congressman defends his post, published with House resources and posted on his official Twitter and Instagram accounts. It didn't stop there. He sent an email to supporters that weekend stating that the faux outrage was infantile. This is not faux outrage. This is not infantile. And then he went on to say the accusations are shrill and hyperventilating. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to glean that this is gendered coded language. The congressman shows no remorse. In fact, yesterday, the congressman said, "I did not apologize." 23 members of the House in the history of this country have been censored for actions including insulting the speaker or using unparliamentary language. Certainly, conduct by a member depicting murdering another member of the House deserves censure. Let me be clear. If a Democrat did the same thing, I would introduce the same resolution. With that, I yield back.
Okay.
At AmericanEagle.com.
Then I'm gonna do Ocasio-Cortez, because it was this, him attacking Ocasio-Cortez, and he said it's symbolic. Okay, I pulled this out because on my, pretty sure it's the Facebook page, has John Paul Jones and Winston Churchill from my family tree. And of course, John Paul Jones was a Navy military person. So, and in here, in the one that I'm doing recently with my family tree, and it goes for John Dickinson with the sun, because he was like, let the federal government be like the sun, and the states, the planet's revolving around. Here I've got our little green men who are coming into the picture. And then the family crest, but there is John Paul Jones, and I've got, can't see it too well, I guess I have to make that a little clearer, but behind, I put it behind the Dickinson crest. There's a lot of the different crests, but I like this one. The Dickinson crest, the sword behind the Dickinson crest, because one of my things is demonstrating and going back and trying to bring in dialogue from about the founding fathers of John Dickinson and what he was all about into the discussion. And that's why they don't like me, because he was a pacifist. He didn't want war with Britain. He didn't think it was, separation was in the best interest, because it was a good trading partner. And of course, it continued after everybody had fought. And that this needed to be argued. And it was the reticence, of course, of the Crown. He was the author of the Olive Branch Petition, which was the last-ditched effort to avoid war. And then he was, because he with Thomas Jefferson drafted the I forget the full name of that, the declarations of whatever, taking up arms, and okay, we offered you the Olive Branch Petition, you chose to ignore that, so now we're following up with the reason of what gives us the right to take up arms here, and ask for a rebellion and declare a revolution and go to violence. And he was the only one not to sign the Declaration of Independence. And he went into disfavor for that. But before that, he was the penman of the revolution and the most well-known of all of the founding fathers. And he also, he fell into disfavor. So he's not, like George Washington or, even John Paul Jones. That's a kind of different story. He enlisted and was served as I forget exactly, but pretty low down the totem pole. I don't know the lowest, I don't think it was a private or whatever the lowest is, but he was definitely not, and I mean, he wasn't a soldier by any means. He was always very, very frail health. So, not a soldier, but even, with the frail health that he had, he enlisted. I mean, for me, I do not ever see me joining any group. I mean, I was pretty good with a bow and arrow in camp, but I can't even, hunters, I'm like, okay, you go out and kill it and clean it and all of that and bring it to me and I'll cook it. I got no problem with that. I prefer that than these inhumane conditions, industrial. But don't ask me to go hunting with you and shoot those things or watch that. Division of labor comes in. I can justify my reticence to do that. So, and that was another thing that gets into this. Well, first let me go into Gosar's stuff. I don't know, he kind of deviated the issue somewhat, but him, attacking Biden and him saying that because I wish he had redirected the conversation and concentrated more on what it is that causing the across the board issues that had precipitated in what really precipitated and happened on January 6th. I mean, I still have a whole slew of questions about the rally, the Moms for America, who's Kimberly Fletcher that was involved there. Why is she not being investigated? Why is it only the people who and Trump? So I got a lot of questions on that still. But as I say, that's for an investigative team. I can't, with little laptops and these crazy people I live with, and the clock is ticking on what I got left in the bank. I just don't have the resources, but I can go, oh, this is something that needs to be looked into. This is something that needs to be looked into by authorities, by proper authorities, in the proper manner, through the proper chains of command, under the law. That's all I'm asking anybody. But anyway, so as to Gosar's comment, then talking about Biden's $4 trillion Marxist, one more bailout plan, and the Republicans are right about this. I mean, the Democrats have to start, or stop with this liberal. I mean, you're a techie liberal and you're a charity liberal. Just keep on throwing them more and more money, getting everybody more and more in debt, while you and the Republican parties fight it out in your political game plan to see who's going to be the last person standing. Well, that's the end game there. All the world goes to hell. Oh, you're going to buy the boats of the poor because you keep on throwing more money at them. I mean, this is exactly why the founding fathers were like, wait a second, we got to make sure that, votes. This is why it stayed in the landowners' hands, the voting rights, was because then the politicians come and buy a bunch of beer the night before the election, ale at the tavern back then, the night before the election, local state or national, of course, your budget needs to be bigger, the bigger your constituency base, and they'll vote for us. And okay, our beer, our ale has become many different, has taken on many different forms, but that's what the basic fundamental policy is, or strategy, so I say. So no, you got to stop with this. Okay, Gosar going in it. This is Marxist. 4 trillion. Gosar, please, can we sit down? I sent him a letter at his house because, of course, this is what I've shown with all of my correspondence to the Liberty, Freedom, and Tea Party Caucus. And it's, it's a form letter to all of those. It went through all of the different staffers, or, the chief of staff. There's like 4 of them that you can find on these people's profiles. But of course, since that never gets blocked up, we know that after, all of these years up on Capitol Hill. But I knew that from the 80s and why I left. That's why, also all of the activists with the family court reform activists, if they weren't all over the map and playing the same game as the people in Congress and the people over at the IMF and the people in the international development community and the think tanks. It's a cacophony that is incredible and fraudulent all over the place. It's all a bunch of con artists. But I can't get anywhere because the legal community won't take a stand because they're in bed with them. This is what I wish Gosar had been explaining instead of going off on Marx, because that just is feeding into the whole thing. So, see, I got my receipts. You can imagine how many thousands of dollars now it's gotten into in the past 15 years I have spent on registered or certified, because, my budget is very little, mail. And so this has gone to their home addresses. And I know, well, that's not appropriate. I agree, it's not appropriate. However, since after 15 years, I can't get through their stupid staff, and this is what also gets back to George III. George III was a pretty decent guy if he had really known what was going on, but already you had an erosion. Well, at that time, it was still the feudals, I think, that had been vying for power with the monarchs in England for a long time. I don't think the industrialists had gotten into the picture then. But then, of course, the industrialists, because the feudalists were agrarian. But then the Industrial Revolution, but it is still that equilibrium of power and the legitimacy of a monarch and the role of a monarch. And that is to make sure that you're feudalist, then you're industrialist. Now, as our techie liberals, technocrats, scientists, I mean, they don't go too far, and that there is that's their role. Their role is not this ceremony and pomp and circumstance, and there is a certain portion of that comes with the territory. I mean, believe me. Oh God. In Bogota, yeah. And I mean, people who want to do only that for absolutely no other reason, than to stand in a receiving line or have to get up on a freaking podium to give a speech? You could have their head examined. Not really. That's the bottom line. And it's an addiction. I mean, I do it because I have to do it. Because, you know, as I say, it comes with the job. You know, that's what being a socialite should teach you, not just about knowing how to walk and to talk and the whole. I mean, I was thinking of My Fair Lady. I watched it a little while ago. And it's a classic. And George, I mean, it's brilliant. And the message is my favorite. Is Eliza Doolittle's father. And how Rex Harrison turns him into an intellect. Or sells him, says, you know, these intellect, because that's getting started at the time. Is Victorian era, I think. And so he writes his professor bullshit artist friend who does all of these conferences. He said, "Oh my Lord, you have to put this man up on a stand. This is the most brilliant analysis of basically a con artist that I've ever heard in my life." And the father becomes a middle-class gentleman. And then what he tells Eliza, when she ends up back on the streets, it's you know, is priceless. I mean, I'm sorry, George Bernard Shaw. I have to, but 99% sure is it George Bernard Shaw. A brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But it's entertaining at the same time. I mean, look at William Shakespeare. I mean, of course, I'm like, can somebody translate here? But the messages are timeless, as unfortunately, you know, the Grimm's fairy tales and all of our different fairy tales, and they are for a reason. The storytelling is for a reason. So anyway, got all of the tickets and everything. So that's Paul Gosar, Andy Biggs. He's Arizona as well. See, Arizona, all of you Arizona people really should start to look at how Arizona is implicated in Arizona, Louisiana, and DC. Oh, and Florida gets in there as well. Oh, well, California, but that's not my personal stuff. But the rest of it pretty much is. So then Scott Perry, he's Pennsylvania. Jim Jordan, he's Ohio. I mean, of course, I wouldn't repeat their addresses. That's not my place, but I did find these public information on the internet. Warren Davis, Ohio. Thomas Massey, Kentucky. Morgan Griffith, Virginia. And that's it. So that was the first one I came across. I think that was Freedom. And it was a shorter list. My pocketbook is, I don't have the money or the time to print out for the other, because the others are a lot longer, the other caucuses. So I sent it through the office. Of course, the only one that I talked to was Cole Gibson of, I think it's Herrell, yeah, Herrell. Cherokee, I believe. American Indian, Republican, and all of our staff are white male supremacist Republicans, alt-right supremacist Republicans, who little buddies. See, the thing is I don't just look at your policies and everything like that. I'm a little socialite and I'm all over the place. I'm like, okay, and your wife, what has she been doing? And I want to know about your children because I want to know, yes, when we guide our youth correctly, they produce a brighter future. When we guide and socialize and educate our youth inappropriately, whether it be with wacko alt-right or wacko alt-left parenting skills and educational institutions and religious institutions and everything else that is involved in that, you know, it does become my domain. It's not just the policies that all you people on Capitol Hill, important work. Oh, this with Ocasio-Cortez in this video. And I'm gonna have to, I think, wrap it up. But I will go into, I forget the second part. I didn't write down the name of that congresswoman who was up there, you know, playing the sympathy card and saying, you know, the fear that she felt at you know, at the January 6th attacks, which I totally understand. Many of us little ladies out there know that fear, and children very, very, very well, for more than half a day or whatever. I went through it for a year. Couldn't sleep more than 2 hours a night. And only slept with, you know, there was a security button, a little button that went to the security people in Villafranca de Castillo, where I was living. They were the only people who showed any concern for my safety. No, the cops were out to assist my ex-husband and his family and get me thrown in prison after the psychiatric ward stuff didn't work. And if I made it out alive, it's because I have a brain and I don't live in this fantasy world that, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. When I hear that one pulled out, I'm like, oh God, okay, give me your name. Give me your name. I'm gonna be up your little wazoozy with a colonoscopy and your entire family and your family tree and background and everything like you can't believe. That's my territory. See, in the commercial world, in the workplace, the you know, outside the purview, let's just say in the domain of what has traditionally been the men, yeah, that is not of relevance to you people. But in my domain, which has been taken over by the gossip columnist, and social media campaigners who are just looking to figure out an angle where they'll be liked and they can get lots of public, you know, advertising revenues from one faction or another. And a lot of them make you know, good money off of it in the upper echelons. Unfortunately, they're setting an example for the lowers that are, you know, unless you have an entourage of people that support you in your community, whether it be a local community or a activism group community. But see, they're all off there trying to promote their own, make money off of this issue and get liked and sell their books or their platform or their speeches or anything like that. That's their name of the game. That's their objective. I mean, I just, you can go on all of my videos, all of my blogs, everything. LinkedIn shut me down during the elections, Trump elections, because I was warning everybody what Trump would do. And there were people who took offense. And so they, you know, reported me, and LinkedIn just shut me down. I mean, you know, the violations of freedom of speech stuff. I've had problems with my YouTube, you know, hackers in that deleted all of the Battered Mothers Custody Conference stuff from 2015 was deleted, wasn't there for at least a year and a half, until with everything's in storage, finally I moved and I found a USB that had all of that stuff so I could re-upload it. You know, this is harassment. This is terrorism. All because people don't like what I have to say. In the land of the free and the brave. I mean, I'm facing eviction. I mean, this landlord, the war, the legal battle and the jurisprudence he wants to set is whether co-tenants and a landlord's right to live in filth and squalor and unfit living conditions are superior to and you know, chaos and dictatorial, you know, screaming and yelling and crazy people. That's superior to my right to live in decent living conditions with sane people who know a minimum of how to conduct themselves with other people. Stuff that they should have learned when they were, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. See, this, you know, Joseph Kennedy, this is JFK and Bobby Kennedy, older brother, was a real Hitler supporter and even said, yeah, you know, agreed with the extermination policies of Hitler, of the undesirables. I'm like, well, wait a second here. Who are the undesirables in this? You know, that's just a matter of semantics of who, or targeted group of who are the undesirables, because be careful if you use that one, because it could be turned and used against you. So, you know, this whole thing about congressional members and even putting the police officers up on the stand to play the sympathy card in front of the American public on the press about their fear during those hours really does not resonate well with me. You know, I am sorry, you people are such hypocrites, you can't even believe it. For over a decade, we've been coming up there telling you about the atrocities that are occurring because of all of the corruption in family courts to women and children, and the statistics and the reports ad nauseum. And all you do, you know, your staffers. Oh my goodness, That's so horrible. You must feel so horrible. Oh my goodness, that's so horrible. Well, I will let the congressional member, Congresswoman, the person, senator, I will inform them to this horrible, horrible state of affairs. And thank you so much for taking your time to come up here and share your thoughts with us. Would you all like to have a photo op? I mean, first it was just with the congressional members that satisfied the little ladies. Then they were satisfied with taking a photo with the staffer. And they were pissed off at me because I'm standing there, my little spiel, which they never liked, was, excuse me, ma'am, my case is a little different because mine is in Spain and I'm working internationally and I am headed to the international courts under international conventions. And this gets into constitutions. Trying to send that guys, I'd always get shut down by one of the little ladies there that, oh, we're not supposed to challenge the sovereignty of the American government. Not challenging the sovereignty of the American government. I'm challenging what they are doing under international conventions and constitutions, and trying to explain to these brain dead bimbos they keep on having in the era, they just turn them around. I mean, it's una fábrica. Disgusting, because this is just the entry in to the other jobs in the private and public sector. That's all they care about. They couldn't give a shit about politics, constitution, or any of the constituency. It's all a political game for power amongst these people, and basically any congressional member who gets themselves voted in good faith is setting themselves up for a fall, because their staffers are not concerned with the promises that their congressional members made at the local level, or the state level. They're only concerned about their career within the respective party and labor force. And I mean, they say this is Washington, but you got it going on at the state level as well. I mean, I've never had personal experience with that, but I know it is going on, and that's where you got to get rid of managerialism and the bureaucracy there. Bring back some sanity and some respect for the administrative function, and get your little secretaries and all of your office managers to learn a lesson from Patsy Geyer. That's why even all of my organizational skills, I put together a filing system and that whole administrative stuff. Not my idea. That was what I learned from Patsy Geyer. And that's one of the reasons why I stayed up there for 5 years. I was like, my God, somebody. And she was. I can understand why these kids from these wacko families joined the army and got this sergeant. You're going to learn some order, because it does help you structure your life. I'm not going to join the army. That's a little bit extreme, but it's the same thing. And Patsy was tough but fair. I mean, I always respected her for that. And a hard worker. She was the hardest working person I ever met up on Capitol Hill. And I think it took a toll on her personal life. But anyway, so you know, everybody up on Capitol Hill who's playing the sympathy card, I've had that ad nauseum everywhere I turn. You can see it with Meghan Markle, you can see it with everybody. We'll see it more with Ocasio-Cortez, but and her saying inciting violence begets violence. Yeah. Let's see, Wendy Murphy at the 2015 battered mother's custody conference. She's a Fox News alt-right affirmative actionist. Lawyer to Kelly Rutherford, because she's an actress and this gives her some public profile, and whispered in my ear at the conference, tell them to get violent. See? There are factions out there. There are many, many, many of the little ladies out there. In many, many, many different ways. Right on everybody's noses. They're too brain dead or castrated to notice. And then this whole thing about, you know, having women added to the draft in their equality movement. Thank you very much, but no, I'm going to vote against that one as well. And I'll even lobby against that one. I don't want anybody to go into armed conflict. You need a strong, this is I totally agree with John Paul Jones. You need a strong defense. Because if you aren't, that's why it's important as a person to stay in good physical and mental health. And you know, that means, I mean, of course, some of us are more sportive than others, but everybody should have physical activity. I mean, so many of the ailments are stress and sedentary, you know, sitting in front of a TV or sitting in front of a screen. I don't care. So, you know, yeah, inciting violence begets violence. And, you know, if you're so anti-violent, why are you sanctioning that the fact that 70% of victims of physical and sexual abuse, children of physical and sexual abuse that go through family courts are being handed over to the abuser? Oh, it's very concerning. We'll let the congressperson know. That's your response? I mean, in what la la land is that not going to make people angry? Now, of course, as I told one of the Capitol Hill guards, who was one when I went up to Gosar to hand deliver the letter into Gosar's office, I found out public entry has now been restricted. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's just going to be, you know, going to really help matters. Yeah, I'm pissed off. I mean, okay, I need the walks, so I'm not going to get pissed off that it's a 3-hour walk there and back from my house. So, you know, I need the exercise, so I just look at it that way. But, you know, we've been going down there for over a decade. You don't want to listen. And now other people with other beefs, but same fundamental issues are attacking you, and you're going to sit there and cry and say you want sympathy. Well, I'm contacting Capitol Hill Police and saying, little buddies, do not tell me you do not know about the bullshit that's going on in Capitol Hill. I mean, by 18 years old, I had figured it out. So if you haven't figured it out after 30 years about observing what's going on there, and you guys are not uneducated people, I'll just see you all in court. No, the reason, no, what do? You get up on the podium as well and say, oh God, this is horrible. We were really scared. We were really scared. Do you know how many people go to live their lives in fear and hunger and danger? Because you assholes are either up there on the hill bullshitting around or watching everybody bullshit around. You are American citizens as well. And you should be standing up and saying, no, excuse me. Yes, we were afraid. Yes, we don't want the violence. But wait a second. We're on the front line here. I mean, really, you are putting your colleagues, all of you are putting yourselves up as human pawns and sacrificial lambs so that all of these people can continue their bullshitting and partying. Yeah, okay, most of you, yeah, for a long time, and they'll produce more jobs. So you'll keep on cashing in there. But you're going to see more and more of your colleagues killed or maimed, and be in more and more situations where you're fearing for your life. So the fact that you won't grow a pair and stand up and be counted as American citizens in order to protect this little racket that I have clearly shown is nothing more than a racket. I mean, I'm hoping to God, because the ones that I sent here, this was November 4th. All of these people have gotten my letters, as has Governor Cuomo. I don't think my stuff to Prince Andrew has gotten up there yet, or from 2018 to Prince Charles ever got to them. So this is the same with King George III. You are no better. Any leader is no better than the people they surround themselves with. And if all of them are brown-nosing game players, or just, anything that they don't want to deal with, which is basically everything, they stick on a shelf to collect dust. Administrative function. Great importance. In workplaces, your homes, your communities, everywhere. And this feminist going, the faux outrage and infantile behavior of the gender-coded language of Gosar. I'm like, lady, take a look in the mirror. Okay, so now I'm gonna Ocasio-Cortez and I'll wrap it up. But with Ocasio-Cortez, the thing is, I mean, I'm like sitting there going, I can't believe you, little lady. Because when she got into office, that was when the Democrats got majority in the House. And Maxine Waters became the chair of the House Finance Committee. And that then several months later, Ocasio-Cortez comes on board. And she's on the House Finance Committee. She's elected in and she goes on to the House Finance Committee. Now, the House Finance Committee, all of the staffers there had already gotten an email from me saying, I want a thorough investigation into what the hell the IMF and World Bank are doing, because they do have purview over the IMF and World Bank. See, this is why all the little ladies in Washington and the socialites and the social media campaigners and NGOs who are making all of these, you know, fake promises and bullshit artists. I'm actually out there, you know, doing the nitty gritty and not worrying about how many people liked my article, how many people liked my blog, how much money it has generated, any of that stuff. It's irrelevant to me. Well, sure, I could use some money because I want to end up on the streets pretty soon, but that's not my objective. We all need a decent living and a decent income. And I'm a hard worker. For the past 15 years, I've worked 24/7. I had a day off, you know, don't even in my sleep, I can't, you know, sleep. I wake up all the time. I got this thing, that thing, I'll write this down. I mean, you know, when you have my children, you know, no, I'm sorry, I can't just get over it as everybody wants and find myself a new meal ticket. Which my husband was never a meal ticket. I was his meal ticket. So, you know, don't pull that bullshit out on me. I'm tired of that one. I got that one for the past 15 years as well. No, you opted out. So you became a dumb bimbo Stepford wife and should, you know, either find yourself a new meal ticket or, you know, do the world a favor and commit sati, suicide. So nobody will have to house you or feed you. Yeah, well, that's not happening. As much as everybody wants it to happen, it's not happening. I mean, I keep on asking all my entourage, can I please know where, you know, your money was? That I would kill myself or that I'd end up on the streets? I'd love to know. I mean, anytime I pull that one out, they just remain silent because they know I'm right and they're not going to admit it. At least they have that good sense. But oh, I didn't get into this really, and I won't go into it. And Congressman Gosar, all of you people who are with your communism, socialism, Marxism, capitalism, dialogue and divide, give me. I mean, I could do it in an elevator speech, which is James Burnham, American philosopher in 1941, showed that the problem of our time, modern time, was not communism versus capitalism. It was managerialism. And what we are going through is a Machiavellian, a Bernard Machiavellian economist, capitalism rather than an Adam Smith capitalism. And your invisible hand is the same thing as the deep state. And the deep state, an invisible hand, is guided by a bunch of narcissistic, ladder grappling, keep up with the Joneses, pimps and whores. I could use some worse words, but I'll leave it at that. You know, elevator speech for me, give me 30 minutes or I go on for hours or days if that's really, what you want, and explaining this whole house of cards. I mean, I keep on telling all of these guys in Washington who want to shut me up and silence me, the feminists there. They just want to silence us. Well, that's what you ladies want to do to me. I would be so much more afraid of a lioness guarding her cubs than the most ferocious lion in the world guarding its prey. Because from day one, I want to get a lot of people up on the stand and say, excuse me, how do you think this is normal? How do can't do that. They can't do that. That's against your rights. But they're doing it. Oh, well, too bad. I mean, really, the bimbos out there are going to take the entire planet off a cliff. People think that women, what they say and what they do, whether it be in the homes, the workplaces, or the communities, are inconsequential. That's because the ones that you got in the ruling elite are inconsequential. I don't want to see them run out of town. And see, they're all so inconsequential and jealous of anybody with substance. And that's why they all denigrate me, and come up with, I'm like, past year, I'm like, I am recording everything. Because when you sit there and say, I never said that, oh my God, how my gosh, my entire life. At least when I was younger, when we were kids, with my siblings, I mean, like, you guys have just become as insane as Mom. But those children would be like, wait a second, she just said that, didn't she? Oh, yeah, she just said that. We're not crazy. We were all here. She said that half an hour ago, or she said that yesterday, or she said that a week ago. We're like, no, she said that. We learned from a very, very young age the new rule game of the Machiavellian game players. I don't care if they're on the right or the left. But this I'll read shortly, quickly. This thing again that I read the last time, but I'm going to read again, The Rise of the Fourth Reich. Hitler understood propaganda intuitively. He wrote in Mein Kampf, and anybody wants to complain about, Marxism and Karl Marx, could you please just read the man's Wikipedia profile? Better yet, and I still not need to read that, Mein Kampf. And we can sit down and have a discussion. Karl Marx was not promoting what the wacko Russian and Chinese communists transformed it to. No, that's not what Karl Marx was about. And Karl Marx was just saying, given the current trajectory of the Industrial Revolution, this is how it's going to end. And he was right. But he wasn't advocating, and particularly not a political system. He was just explaining a socioeconomic system. So he wrote in Mein Kampf, one started out with the very correct assumption that in the size of the lie, there is always contained a certain factor of credibility, since the great masses of people may fall victim to a great lie rather than a small one, since they themselves also lie, sometimes in little things, but would certainly be too ashamed to tell a great lie. Ones who tell the little ones, little white lies of, Oh, yes, I can definitely see that you've lost a pound. That's acceptable, particularly for men when they're talking to their wives. This is acceptable. And we do, you know, tell those type of little light wise all the time, not to offend other people. Now that is a whole other can of worms when you start, even with the little lies, to manipulate people. And Karl Marx is talking about religious institutions here, but the same thing is applicable to our government institutions, our secular institution, pseudo government as well. Let's see. Thus, it would not enter their heads to tell a great lie, and they would not believe that. Okay, and they would not believe that others could tell such an infamous lie. Indeed, they will doubt and hesitate even after learning the truth. They will continue to think there must be some other explanation. See, they don't want to face the truth. They can't face the truth because the truth is too ugly. Therefore, just for this reason, some part of the most imprudent lie will remain and stick. A fact which all great lying artists and societies of this world know only too well and therefore villainously employ. This is the Machiavellian paradigm. This has existed for hundreds and hundreds of years. And that's, you know, the paradigm that needs to be changed, where we don't, well, everybody lies. It's normal. Senora Guerrero, the lawyer in Spain and Madrid, told me that one in 2007. And I just was sitting there going, I can't believe you actually said that to me. And that is going to be your defense when I get all of you SOBs in court. Well, of course, bitches in this case. See, Phyllis Chesler, there is a reason why they're called son of bitches. I got the other, you said there's no other word, but there is the word bastard. But son of a bitches and bastard, it's for a reason. Therefore, just for this reason, some part of the most imprudent lie will remain and stick, a fact which all great lying artists and societies of this world know only too well and therefore will eventually employ. Sorry, I already read that. Hitler was stating that most people are honest and would never tell a great lie. Therefore, it is hard for them to believe that anyone, especially an admired leader, would tell one. This presents a great weapon to unprincipled officials. But see, Hitler is very, very similar to Donald Trump in that he's a puppet. And, you know, he is a showman, he's a con artist, and very adept liar. Because this is one of the things that the prep school and Ivy League school paradigm is teaching. And how to brown nose, how to play the game, and you know, and that involves being a pathological liar, because you got to constantly be promoting a narrative that your audience wants to hear in order to promote your agenda. I see my mother and everybody I know does this. That's what, when, you know, the damn thing started in 2007. And I said, anybody messes around with me is up a creek without a paddle. I didn't realize how far the creek was going to take me. Or how far our creek ride would take us. But you know, one of my neighbors, and typical, I mean, if she'd gone through what I had gone through, she never would survive. And all, you know, they're all going to be, when the house of cards collapses, because all of them are playing the same game and making money, and that's also why they don't like what I'm doing, because it threatens their way of life, the paradigm. and this is, you know, as I say, this is global. I'm as much implicated with the Americans. I mean, in my personal stories, it's the Americans, the French, the Spanish, and even the British. I mean, very much to a lesser extent, because a lot of those people I haven't known since, well, you know, I knew them briefly in the 70s, but still, these were people that I went to school with. And these are, you know, the boarding school, the schools, like my brother went to Hill House, where Prince Charles went, much before my brother. But these are the schools. Ghislaine Maxwell, Prince Andrew knew Ghislaine Maxwell because she was at these schools, and her father was part of this. You know, that gets into the journalism magnets, which is, you know, industrial as well, because that was print. It was basically an industrial product that has gone, that, you know, has since gone digital and exploded and producing lots and lots of problems. So I do need to wrap this up. So, but I did want to play this one as well of Ocasio-Cortez, and just, you know, reminding everybody that this lady has been sitting, and the House Finance Committee have been sitting, oh gosh, did I lose it? Have been sitting on my solicitation of that committee to examine, while the Democrats are in power, to examine all the problems within the banking systems, the financial markets, and the role that the IMF and World Bank are playing in that role, that cover up and that bullshit. And while we can go after bailout after bailout, you know, them criticizing, no, they got their $4 trillion, you know, infrastructure bailout under Biden. But there's also, what about the Fed? That $3 trillion bailout that was swept under the carpet. And that's Biden's administration. The $1 trillion was Obama administration after the 2008 collapse. Now they know another one's coming, so they moved ahead of the game now and did a $3 trillion. But it's still not going to be enough. Bitcoin, that's a whole other part of the matrix. That's what I got to listen to. I mean, I also just want to record the thing. I know what they're going to say, and it just pisses me off to hear, yeah, and you people sitting there trying to make money off of it. But, you know, or policymakers, like all you people in Congress, even, it's great. The ads now, sometimes I'll have these ad pop-ups, and they'll be like 20 minutes. Maybe not quite so long, but they seem like it. But it's really, really interesting. And I'll listen, and it's from all of these, you know, hedge fund guys and these different con artists. It's across the board. I'll be like, oh my God, you need to be investigated. You need to be investigated. You need to be investigated. You know, just cash in. And Ocasio-Cortez is just another who, like, okay, little lady, you want to play the ignore until she goes away game like everybody else? walking on board my little choo-choo train of people I want to see in court under RICO for incorrect practices and Patriot Act. I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to scream and yell. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. Isabel ate the bear. I don't remember the whole thing. I'll have to look that one up. But that's basically my philosophy in life. I learned that I loved that little rhyme when I was little. I was like, yeah, I think that's the best way to handle it. Instead of everybody around, like flipping out. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. Isabel ate the bear. So
I've been serving in this body just under 3 years. In that 3 years, enormous amounts has happened. But in response to the Republican leader's remarks, when he says that this action is unprecedented, what I believe is unprecedented is for a member of House leadership of either party to be unable to condemn incitement of violence against a member of this body. It is sad. It is a sad day in which a member who leads a political party in the United States of America cannot bring themselves to say that issuing a depiction of murdering a member of Congress is wrong, and instead decides to venture off into a tangent about gas prices and inflation. What is so hard? What is so hard about saying that this is wrong? This is not about me. This is not about Representative Gosar, but this is about what we are willing to accept. Not just the Republican leader, but I have seen other members of this party advance the argument, including Representative Gosar himself, the illusion that this was just a joke. That what we say and what we do does not matter so long as we claim a lack of meaning. Now, this nihilism runs deep, and it conveys and betrays a certain contempt for the meaning and importance of our work here. That what we do, so long as we claim that it is a joke, doesn't matter. That what we say here doesn't matter. That our actions every day as elected leaders in the United States of America doesn't matter. That this chamber and what happens in it doesn't matter. And I am here to rise to say that it does. Our work here matters. Our example matters. There is meaning in our service. And as leaders in this country, when we incite violence with depictions against our colleagues, that trickles down into violence in this country. And that is where we must draw the line, independent of party, identity, or belief. It is about a core recognition of human dignity and value and worth. So when we talk about, as mentioned in the resolution, that these depictions are part of a larger trend of misogyny and racial misogyny, racist misogyny, this has results in dampening the participation. And so this vote is not as complex as perhaps the Republican leader would like to make folks believe. It's pretty cut and dry. Does anyone in this chamber find this behavior acceptable? Would you allow depictions of violence against women, against colleagues? Would you allow that in your home? Do you think this should happen on a school board? In a city council? In a church? And if it's not acceptable there, why should it be accepted here? Lastly, when the Republican leader rose to talk about how there are all of these double standards and lists a litany of all these different things, not once did he list an example of a member of Congress threatening the life of another. This is not about a double standard, and what is unprecedented and what is tragic is the descent of transgression in this body. I grew up as a little girl with awe about our nation's capital. The reverence and the importance and the gravity of our work here.
30 seconds.
Gentlelady is recognized.
The gravity of our work here. So the question that I pose to this body in response is, will we live up to the promises that we make our children? That this is a place where we will defend one another regardless of belief. That our core human dignity matters. If you believe that this behavior is acceptable, go ahead. Vote no. But if you believe that this behavior should not be accepted, then vote yes. It's really that simple. Thank you, and I yield back to the chairman.
Gentlelady from Indiana.
Madam Speaker, I yield as much time as I may.
Okay. I'm going to be using that in the courts in future against Ocasio-Cortez. There are a lot of issues that I could go over there, but first, I mean, she does have some of the same criticism. Well, she goes off because it's like, oh, you're talking about irrelevant things and on infrastructure and the Biden's proposal, which I said, I wish he'd use the issues that I had included in my letter and how this has to be attacked and directed by those who, whether it be called Paul Gosar, I also, I'd seen Mary Miller for her Hitler comment on controlling our youth. We control the future by controlling our youth. We can do it. Yes, that's true. It can be done in a positive fashion or a negative fashion. It's being done in a negative fashion. And that is right and left who's doing that. But it's very important. Ocasio-Cortez keeps on, this whole dialogue. What's so hard for you to admit you were wrong? This is the end game. I mean, I get it all of the time. I'm just supposed to admit that I am wrong. You can't have any kind of discussion on anything that I'm bringing to the table. I just have to admit that I'm wrong. Otherwise, I'm not liked. This is a this little lady has really gotten herself in hot water since she's been in Congress. She grew up believing in the integrity of Congress and all that crap. So did I. The first elections I remember was Nixon McGovern. My mom, the teacher at the school, this was, I forget which is 71. I think I was in third grade. said, oh, we're gonna, look at this but on the issues and not as a popularity contest, on the issues like your parents do and not a popularity contest. Ever since, in every election I've ever seen any place on the world, I was like, that teacher didn't know what she was talking about. That's all it is. Nobody is concerned about the issues. If it's a good con artist up on the podium, we'll vote for them. The thing is they're not informed citizens, so they can't make informed election decisions. So she has, yeah, well, I came to Washington as an intern and decide, oh, I don't want to be a bartender all my life after graduating from college. So let me get elected to Congress. That's what she said. No, I came here, was an intern my senior year of high school. And that was a job I got myself. And my mom was going to kick me out of the house because of that. And I stood up to her. See, when people try and push me around, I stand up to them. And that's what nobody in my family likes. That's what nobody likes. See, I'm supposed to just admit I was wrong and shut up. So I take that one very personally. And then she goes into the pictures against her are just a larger trend of misogyny. Then she adds racial misogyny because she wants to get the race card in there. Yes, it's a trend of misogyny. And that is because the alpha dominance feminists have been, flaming the fire of the misogyny that have existed against women within homes and workplaces. And this particularly gets into the Industrial Revolution and managerialism, because when you had, agrarian-based societies and women doing the cooking, and you didn't everybody have a washing machine and dryer and all of the amenities that make all of that for us. We just take it for granted. You didn't have to pump the water and, dig the well. And every time you want some hot water, you got to heat it up on the fire. Yeah, believe me. Then, the entire day, everybody, and that's where you had your kids didn't sit around watching TV or reading books. Book learning was even like, well, you don't need to do that. You need to learn how to, make some food to survive, because you sit around reading books all day long, your tummy's going to get empty and you're going to get cold from the elements. The Industrial Revolution has produced enough, technology so everybody can have those basic necessities filled, and then we can move higher on. But if all of these little bitches out there just want power and control and come to Congress, I mean, this whole thing about the work we do here is important. What we're doing is important. No, it isn't. I've been headed to the international courts for over a decade on that point alone. And I want to challenge Gonzalez, the defense of the American government, and Gonzalez-Linehan versus USA, that was the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, 2011, where the American government said it didn't have control over its courts at the state and, local levels. I said, well, if that's what they claim, then they are basically, admitting their illegitimacy under the US Constitution. So let's go back to the courts and challenge them on that and throw them up against the wall and grab their balls and say, these things are coming off if you don't move. That's how you talk to power, particularly oppressive power, when you've got the law on your side. Now, all of these, yes, Nuremberg trials were a victor's, sham and a victor's justice. Because the people who were accused were right. Nothing that they had done was a crime under previous, under the legal codes. And you cannot, make criminal offenses proactive or any kind of offenses. New rule. But I did that yesterday when it wasn't under the new rule. Oh, well, I don't care. Does anybody not understand how that creates chaos and why you have to have a set level playing structure of basic rules that everybody is held to account on an equal basis? Equality under the law. You assure that you do have the trickle down. I mean, you're talking about trickle down. I'm like, little lady, I'm going to be using that one against you on the trickle down stuff. And yeah, now they're promoting the SDG bullshit. And Congress does its job? No, it does not. Now, as I keep on saying, you people can play the ignore me till you go away game with me as long as you like. And I'll just keep on documenting all your bullshit. But it won't get me to violence. I scream and yell and bitch and probably, call you quite a few names. But actual, physical harm, it's not going to happen. First, it's not my MO. It's just not, And second, I know it would come and bite me in the ass. This is what my younger sister was put on the planet to teach me. My eldest, because his younger brother. But see, that's where the difference was with me. Yeah, he was, would bug his older. This is the typical dynamics, and the different personalities. He would bug, and the older one would hit. And I explained, this is when they were young, and I explained, no, you're not allowed to do that. If you have an issue, if he's bugging you like that, you bring it to the judge, you bring it to me, and that's when application of the law gets into the matrix. And okay, what happened here? I want evidence. I want facts. Testimonies. But then, of course, I know the different children giving me the different testimonies because I know them all. So I know which one, where the alliances are, and how the thing went down before I even went there. But of course, these are my children. Of course, I know that, that's what I'm there for. A judge doesn't have that luxury. And of course, if I walked into a room full of children that I don't know, I'm not gonna, be applying the same judgment on these little litigants as I am a room full of children I don't know. But it's the same thing. So but see, what you guys are doing up on Capitol Hill, you're governing people and all that. You so highfalutin with your idea, your grand diplomas and all of this education and academic work you've done and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, you still don't understand the fundamentals and what the whole thing is all about, because you're so all in your intellectual la la land. You don't know what the frick's going on planet Earth. And the dumb bimbos, college grads who are getting voted in with no life experience and no work experience who are going to come in and drink the Kool-Aid and propagate the propaganda. Oh, she's a good speaker. I just wish she wasn't full of bullshit. And as I say, I give everybody for the benefit of the doubt. She got a letter. Okay, little lady, you youth are going to save the world. You're here to save Washington, D.C. and this country and this planet. Put your money where your mouth is. She dropped the ball. You do that with me. See, I don't get into the begging game, the ass kissing game, the brown nosing game. Here it is. This is what your job is. You do it, you don't do it. You don't do it, I'll see you in court. Because I got better things to do with my life than to come and kiss your ass or suck your cock if you're a man. You know, believe me, yeah, yeah. Never would I thought I'd say that thing on the internet, but that's where we've gotten to. Misogyny. You want to talk about the trend of misogyny? You little feminists are behind that. And part of it is, of course, the men think every woman's a whore because all you little ladies will sleep your way to the top or sell out. I mean, some of them sell their bodies, some of them sell their souls. And the ones who get married, I've always said this, the ones who get married for their meal ticket rather than the prostitute who picks and chooses and manages her own money. I got more respect for the prostitute than the whoring meal ticket social climbing wife. And I know lots and lots of. That's why I'm just, you know, even though they criticize me the entire time for being too honest and too naive, I'm just, and you know, they saw that I was a slave to my husband and family. No, I'm a social climbing parasite on society. Even the ones who know me very, very well and know all that I did. And I should just shut up and look for my next meal ticket. Even though that was never the case. I mean, just this hypocrisy is really pissing me off. and it should piss everybody off. And everybody who's silencing me, I'll see you in court under freedom of speech issues. This will collapse. The more you try and shut me up, who's the only one out there who, you know, has looked at everything, who knows what's really going on, and willing to call you out one by one, instead of get up on a podium and try and convince a bunch of pissed off people to go after you, you know, in some riot. Of course, since you won't listen to reason, I mean, this is what terrorism about. Can't listen to somebody and listen to evidence and facts and anything that does not fit into your particular narrative and want to shut them up. You're a terrorist. So Ocasio-Cortez, explain to me how you have the gall to stand up there on Capitol Hill and say something like that when your office, since you got into power, not only are you looking at a lawsuit and the legal problems of you know, the House Finance Committee and why that isn't doing its job, but also when I contacted your office and spoke to the little bimbo entitled. Oh, I mean, the arrogance of that little girl was up there. Out of all of the arrogant little bimbos I've spoken to over the years on Capitol Hill, and I got her name. She's going to be in court as well and be put under a microscope of what she's doing during her career. Everybody else on your staff just want to come up here and cash in on taxpayers' money so you can party and promote the brown, minority agenda of the Democrats. That's all you've come here to do, as have your staff. As you have shown by your inaction. Now, I am sure everybody's going to say, oh, we didn't realize, oops, it fell through the cracks. Yeah, that one is going to work as well as the one of the dog ate my homework. Not going to work. Not going to work. So, everybody thinks that Washington is hardball. That's the go-to that I get from everybody. This is the big time. This is hardball against the big boys. Top of the heap. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, and you better wake up to the program. Because when the hard bowls start coming back to haunt you, you're not going to have a pot to piss in. So, I mean, it just. And the thing is I am a liberal. I'm a progressive. Always. I'm always challenging the status quo. But the status quo of the bullshit right-wingers, bullshit left-wingers in the case of Ocasio-Cortez, as well as the bullshit artists on the right. That's why Donald Trump, I'm like, excuse me? New York con artist, father's boy, bailed out, Wharton School, prep school, military school. I mean, of course, I looked into, his profile, where he'd gone to school, prep school, his family. I'm like, are you kidding me? These people, his father, or is it his grandfather? Yeah. Gold rush and brothels of California. And that's how and then they got into urban real estate. And I mean, he's been, most people in New York, most of the New Yorkers in the business world, because he wasn't even in the financial markets or banking. Man's a bullshit artist. We all know that. He's a crook. See, the thing is that is standard fare amongst these people. I know, because I know them all. In fact, one of my favorite things was Jeffrey Hilton, who contacted me in 2015 about investing in global expats. He said, well, what do you need? A CEO or a techie guru? I said, either or both. Because with those people on board, and for example, Cornelia Guest and Ingrid Betancourt, I thought was pretty good. Bring in the cocaine producer, Ingrid Betancourt, and the cocaine consumer, Cornelia Guest, onto the board. I would have gotten enough interest I would have gotten the capital venture money that I needed for that. With just their names. They thought I was trying to cash in on their name. No, I would have made them very, very wealthy. Now they're up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. They're bad, as the saying now goes. So, but Jeffrey Hilton, he was like, well, what do we need you for? Type of things. I never heard back from him. I'm like, see, that just goes, that's just another example, because I have so many ad nauseum that those in the business community have no appreciation nor knowledge about what marketing is about. For them, marketing is sales, 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 sales. That is not marketing. That's one of the things that you have to do within the marketing structure. But the marketing, what marketing is about and why you actually have marketing and do marketing is to study. And this was marketing 101. Marketing is identifying your target or identify the needs of your target market consumers and fulfilling those needs. It is not about producing a bunch of, ideas that you came up with, whether they're good or not. You don't know until you actually produce the company, which there's 70 to 90% failure rates. It's just crapshoot for you guys. No research, no thinking, and does anybody actually need this product? No. What need does this fulfill? No, I just produce this crap. Now I got to load it off on a bunch of people, so I'll get, spend a lot of money on advertising to convince everybody that they want it and that they need it because everybody else has it. I'll go on and on and on, but you get the picture. So that's not what marketing is about. And he was right. I mean, I already knew by the time I started, with the whole global expats idea, because I had served on expat wives clubs on the boards for years and years. So I knew that they weren't fulfilling the needs of their constituency and they were producing a lot of bullshit. So I said, well, I'm going to start my own organization and show them how it's done. I mean, I tried for reform amongst them. And just like elsewhere, there's no good faith. No, they just want to party and jet set and cash in. And that is their only interest in life. So, okay, I'll start a new one. And of course, that's when my ex tried to start and kill me and everybody else tried to start to destroy me. But, Susan Feeney, she's a marketing bigwig expert, marketing of Bank of America in Madrid. She's like, who would need this? I would take him on as a partner. Who would need this? Oh, there you go, quickly without a paddle, and she's producing a bunch of bullshit over there. She got fired from Bank of America and is doing all of this manufacturing, luxury living, home furniture platforms like everybody else, and not making any money and struggling to survive, particularly as the economy gets worse and worse and worse in Spain. So see, this is what you got out there as your bigwig marketing specialist. Leslie Morgan Steiner is another one who's going to be up shit's creek without a paddle on all of this crap. Little ladies, you want to get in the game, then you have to assume responsibilities for your actions. This is why you were kept out of positions of power before, because you created so much of a mess and so much problems and cacophony. When you, much more so than the men, they need to get their shit together as well. So, this is where it comes into, no, don't, little ladies, don't point your fingers at the men and say, well, it's okay because they've been doing it. No, just like with children. No, that doesn't excuse your behavior. I have my issues over there, and I'm going to take it up with them. Don't you worry about them. You worry about your little selves for once, because you're getting yourselves in a shitload of trouble. So anyway, oops, I gotta end and get off at this other thing. So have a nice evening.